Hey guys, how y'all doing? Bioniclesaurus here, and today we are going to be taking a look at another CollectA figure. We're on a roll. This time it is the Deluxe Mapusaurus from just last year. This is actually a fairly new one, a little bit more relevant to talk about. Very excited to talk about this one because it's kind of major. It's pretty much the only good figure we have representing one of the largest, most iconic, bigger than T-Rex type theropods. To be fair, I think he's the smallest theropod that was bigger than T-Rex. Like, it's T-Rex, Mapusaurus, then Giga, then Carcar, then Spino. And that's like the upper five. I'm not sure. They're changing this stuff all the time. They're all very close in terms of length. Like, they're very similar sizes. Spinosaurus is the only one that's dramatically larger than the rest in terms of overall dimension. In terms of the figure, this is one that I had kind of mixed feelings about. I really was hyped for it when I first saw the pictures. I was like, wow, this is a large 140 scale, fairly accurate, cool-looking Mapusaurus. And as time went on, certain flaws have started to get to me. One major thing about the whole figure is it's fairly thin. It's got a very long tail, questionably long. Very skinny tail, although the tail isn't really the annoyingly thin part. The annoyingly thin part of the legs, they're not the worst legs. I've definitely seen CollectA theropods with worse legs. The Torvosaurus has even thinner calf muscles specifically. The thighs are fine. The thighs are pretty much always fine on CollectA figures. It's just once you get down to the calf and ankle, things get a little stick-like. And he has this also very CollectA signature thing of kind of like not too much bending going on at this joint, so it's kind of this big straight stick and then an almost plantigrade looking little foot, and the toes are not properly splayed. Just every problem with CollectA's theropod legs is like manifested on this guy. There's not too much that's really unique to this figure that you don't see on some of their other stuff, but that's there. As far as accuracy is concerned, the figure is really good. Besides the specifics of the contours and positioning of the legs, the rest of the thing is proportioned really well. There's some slight shrink wrapping on the head, but compared to what CollectA used to do, this is pretty okay. It's really not much to complain about. It's just some slight depressions on the, specifically the antorbital fenestra, and a little on the orbit. Not really, though. It's pretty solid looking. Articulated jaw. The tongue curling up is questionable. We wonder if they really did that during vocalizations now. Somewhat questioned, somewhat doubted. That's what I'm looking for. We also have this slightly annoying thing of this like bit of dewlap, this bit of sort of folded skin in the throat, which is very awkwardly placed because they had to make room for the articulated jaw to be able to move properly. It's not nearly as bad in hand. It just always looks worse in pictures and photos, or photos and videos, rather. In hand, it really does not bother me nearly as much as I thought it was going to, so that's great. As far as the crests are concerned, very prominent, very ugly and knobby looking. I love the way those have been sculpted. Accurate, because as far as large Carcharodontosaurids go, Mapusaurus had by far the most prominent eyebrow ridges and crests in front of and above the orbits. Much more prominent than Carcharodontosaurus or even Giganotosaurus, which is about its closest relative around, along with Tyranotitan. Tyranotitan, this, and Giga were the three large carnosaurs of kind of mid-Cretaceous South America. So, as far as other stuff to talk about, paint job. The paint job's fine. It's not great. It's very simplistic. There's not very much going on, and it seems a little lazy, looks a little cheap and toy-like from some angles. We have this sort of yellow or cream color on the bottom, then fades into this very kind of gray. There's part of me that kind of likes it. It kind of reminds me of a rosy boa. If you look up a rosy boa, there's lots of different variants and color variants of those snakes, but there are some that have this sort of gray with red accents and stuff. Kind of cool. A little bit of I don't know if that was inspiration, but I like anytime I can draw visual parallels between the color of a dinosaur figure and a modern animal. We do have a little bit of yellow going on the crest on the head. Black eyes, that's typical for CollectA. Overall, yeah, the paint job is, I guess, lackluster, but I kind of like it. There's something about at least the concept of the color choices that I like, even if the execution is nothing too special. We have a row of spines going down the back. Lots of very pronounced osteoderms, almost Carnotaurus-like. That's interesting. The pose is solid. It's on a base, but y'all know me, I don't really mind that. And to me, the pose is just really excellent. It's just a standing pose, but it's so dynamic, fluid, and just naturalistic. This looks very natural and animal-like. Fits right into its environment. Very, very good. Good job, CollectA. We have a cloaca. We have these very large scales underneath. Almost crocodilian. Bit of an odd choice. I don't know if they've done that on other figures, come to think of it. I feel like they probably have. The base is pretty nice. It actually has some pretty solid looking sort of cracked mud texture going on, some faint evidence of other footprints, other animals and things. A lot nicer than a plain smooth base, so I commend them for doing what they did there. Yeah, overall this figure, it has certain proportional issues and some other minor accuracy gripes, but I think my biggest issue with it is it's just a little anticlimactic. For a genus as exciting to see in toy form as Mapusaurus, one of the largest ever carnivorous dinosaurs, this is just it's just an okay looking figure. It's not overly impressive or overly intimidating looking, and I don't want it to be. I want it to look like a natural animal, not some monster or exaggerated beast, but it still just could have used a little more flair to it. As it stands, you compare this to the iguana-like bright green Torvosaurus or the Tyrannosaurs from CollectA, which are consistently very colorful, and the most recent of which is in this very dramatic roaring pose. And by comparison, this one's just, it's sort of easy to overlook, and that's unfortunate. Objectively, there's not a whole lot wrong with it, but subjectively, I guess it's just kind of boring. I still really like it. I think for a rating, it's getting a solid 9. Which sounds pretty high considering how unenthused I've been, but again, on an objective level, it's a 9. It has about the right range of flaws to still get up to a 9, because all of its flaws are fairly small and there's not too many of them. It's not the most exciting thing, but it's still a really good, accurate representation of a genus that is great to have in toy form. Real quickly, I'm going to bring in my size comparison here. Just the Papualosaurus today, nothing too special. And yeah, I really like this figure. I think it's underappreciated. I think the fact that it's easy to overlook is unfortunate, but it's still kind of something I have to consider. So that's about all I have to say. I know I'm a little torn on this one, but overall I do like it. It's just not the most extraordinary thing. Definitely not a 10, not a 9.5, but I just don't have the heart to bring it down to an 8.5. So thank you for watching, and Bioniclesaurus signing out.